why do you think you judge yourself quite harshly? Like, why is that part of you developed?
I think because I have an image of myself that shouldn't feel like that, shouldn't act like that, should have more empathy for other people. It's not all about me.
It's not all about me. Tell me more of that.
In particular, in my romantic relationships, I think I make it all about me, like satisfying my needs, satisfying my voids and lack of. I want these people to see me as the only person, the absolute maximum in their life, you know. I think you mentioned once that I choose these men that had faulty parents or some lacking parents because I feel like I lodge myself in their lives and they're going to see me as the ever-loving person. And then what I do is the opposite. I want to take love, but I don't want to give love.
Why do you think you want to take love?
So that I don't have to love myself, so that I don't have to fight so hard.
So again, it comes back to just being alone.
Being not looked after, not nurtured. Alone, very alone during my childhood years. Yeah.
And I guess considering everything that you went through, I mean, being alone was harmful.
Yeah, because communicating would have been better, would have stopped it, would have ended it shorter, would have something.
Do you think that's the case? Do you think if you had told your brother or told your mum that things would have been different?
Told my mom, yeah.
Why do you think you didn't tell your mum?
I tried to think back at that, why I didn't. I think there was part shame. I think also there was part before my brother came, because he joined us when he was 9, 10, almost 10. My mom had been sad before. I had seen my mother as sad. And I felt that if I told on him, they might take him away again. I don't know.
So you wanted to make sure your mom was okay?
Yeah, I wanted to make sure my mom was okay. My dad is just sort of in the background.
We've talked about that before, you wanting to make sure your mom was okay and you wanting to like please your brother and, you know, even though
everything okay.
Yeah, and we've talked about that as a fawn response. But what's really interesting is that you had this, I guess, deep fawning nature as a child, so as not to be alone, so as to stay in connection and make sure everybody was there. But then now, in your relationship, it's the opposite. Instead of fawning, it's like the extreme opposite, isn't it?
It's like, okay, I suffered when I was little, you give it to me now.
Make up for it.
Make up for it.
What emotion do you feel when you connect to that?
It's a sense of entitlement.
To drop a little deeper and find the emotion.
Because I'm here.
Tell me how it feels.
Yeah. It feels like it's deeper than my chest. It's deeper. Yeah.
Is it moving or still?
Well, that part has always been a mess for me. It's always moving. Always.
What do you mean it's been a mess for you?
Just the digestive issues. Yeah. Yeah.
What have your digestive issues been?
Irritable bowel syndrome, bloating, very difficult digestion.
Yeah. And if you connect into what we're just talking about, this sense of entitlement, like, hey, make it better.
Yeah.
What is the actual emotion that you can connect to?
It's anger.
Anger.
Anger mixed with fear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like swelling around together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like, if you don't do it, I'm gonna die. Therefore, you better do it.
Okay. And if you think of now in your life, you're directing them at your partner, who are those emotions ready for? You better help me or I'll die.
It's a combination of myself and my mom. And anger towards my brother and my mom. So it's my mom a lot too. Until this day, my sister and I are always looking after my mom. It's like she's strong but fragile.
So you had to look after her, but she couldn't look after you. Is that how you feel about it too?
Yeah.
In this excerpt, Lucrecia and I are exploring her fawn response, and we're also exploring both maternal and fraternal transference that is at play in her relationship with her current romantic partner. As a child, during the face of abuse, there was no space, it was not safe for Lucrecia to say no to her brother, to make him stop harming her. And so this part that we learn was very, very angry, has suppressed. There was also no safe space for Lucrecia to express the need for her mother to protect her. So again, this child that wants to cry out for help becomes suppressed within adult Lucrecia. So there are these two, I guess, suppressed or sleeping unexpressed fragments in her that are spilling out, that are being triggered in her relationship. And what's interesting is, as a child, she developed this very fawning nature. I'm going to be quiet because I want to please my brother, and I'm going to be quiet because I don't want to ask too much of my mother. I don't want to upset her because she seems a little bit upset. So she has this fawning nature and doesn't express her own feelings. However, in her current relationship with her partner, it becomes an extreme opposite. So this child inside her that is screaming and needing love and protection is coming out and demanding. And I think she said something in there along the lines of, if you don't give me the care I need, I'm going to die. That's how urgent it is. And there is both this fear of all the terrible things that were happening to her, and there is also a deep anger that she's being harmed. So the fear and the anger are ascribed to her mother, and then there is also this anger to her brother for harming her. And as she describes her experience, I ask her to kind of give more detail. So again, I'm deepening her into it, and she identifies that both of these emotions are kind of swirling around in her stomach, and she herself connects to all of the difficult digestive issues, including irritable bowel, that she has. You may notice in the way that I'm engaging with and relating to Lucrecia that I'm not feeding her any answers. I'm not saying, hey, you're holding anger, you're holding fear, and this past relationship is just the same as what's going on in your relationship now. No, if I were to do that, it would not allow her an empowered experience of embodied connection. I think the way I work is to help them provide context for their emotional experience, and in this case you can see she's naturally linking it to her somatic experience as well. And then I'm going to ask her open questions that I guess guide her to be able to truly feel, hey, I'm feeling angry and I'm feeling fear, and they're stuck here together at my stomach. And hey, yes, I can deeply feel and know that the way I felt to my mother back then is very present in me now. And I think that this approach is really important when working with trauma, because if we're to feed the client what we see and what we sense, they are going to remain in a state of oppression or suppression and inability to feel and process themselves. Whereas when we relate to the client in a way that allows them to stay safely in their own exploration and come to clear conclusions that they can feel, they are moving into a place of empowerment and expression, which in my opinion are antidotes to the oppression of trauma. Okay. How are you feeling right now?
a little bit calmer for putting all this out.
Making sense.
Making sense. I keep blaming myself because I know that he has issues too, and I know that I hurt him a lot. I know that I hurt him a lot. And yet I couldn't stop inside of it. That's really hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard. I haven't apologized because it's like so deja vu. It's repeated and repeated and repeated.
When you're triggered like that, there's no access to rational, kind, compassionate you.
No. Sorry.
You don't need to apologize. Do you want to be able to get to a place where you can apologize and make amends with him?
Yeah, I think apologies are first, amends will come later, but I need to say it. I think it's the right thing.
To say what?
I guess what I wanted to say is, and I'm afraid to write because there's a part of me that will tend to manipulate things on my way. But I guess if I listen to my heart, what I want to say is I'm sorry that I couldn't be the person I wanted to be. That's really the bottom line.
So you really want to connect him from here, but you connected him from here.
Yeah.
I wonder what happens if we can, when you say you manipulated him and connected from this angry place, I wonder what happens if we try and discharge some of that anger, if it allows you to stay more present with your heart and with that rational part.
Yeah.
How does that sound? Okay. So in a minute I'm going to bring you onto the table and we're just going to go. Here, Lucretia comes to a place where she identifies that when she had been engaging with her partner, she was actually very deeply triggered from a place of anger. And this realization helps her to understand the why behind her interactions or her actions. And I put in a little bit of psychoeducation there that can be expanded on. When clients can understand that when they're engaging from a triggered space, they don't have access to their rational brain or their prefrontal cortex, and they're really not fully present, again, that helps provide a little bit of a release of shame and helps them make sense of their experience. So I find that that can be very helpful. What's more, when we come to this realization that her difficult relational dynamics are coming from very old triggered anger, we explore whether that anger, if we discharge it, would change the way that she can engage. And so when we come to this place and we decide, okay, let's see if discharging some of the anger changes the place from which you can connect to your partner, that's the perfect time to then move from the couch to the table, because we've identified an intention for our table work session, seeing if we can discharge some of her old suppressed anger. So exhale, relax onto the table. And take another nice breath in. And as you exhale, you can forget our entire conversation. You don't need it anymore. Just letting your breath take you gently into your body, into a time and place where it's okay to be any which way, and to feel any which way, and to express those things that you've been holding on to for so long. And I'm going to be here to support you. And I'm going to start by being quiet and connecting with my hands. And you can talk to me at any time. once we move to the table, we want to help the client transition safely from the experience of talking, which does have a very mental cognitive component, to a place where they feel that they can drop into their somatic narrative and also drop into the different connection of me as a practitioner with my hands. And so when somebody does lie onto the table, first I'm going to make them really comfortable with a sheet or a blanket. Sometimes I'll also use heat packs. And something that I like to do is use some verbal cues, and I also like to use essential oil. So in this little clip, you can see me maybe looking a little bit funny with my hands, but actually I'm starting to attune to Lucrezia by moving with her inhale and allowing her to smell an essential oil. And in this case, I used clary sage, which can be really helpful for down regulating the system. But she can feel and sense through her nervous system that, oh, when I breathe in, Natalia is there with this oil, and as I exhale, she moves away. So this movement is supporting a very quick attunement from my nervous system to her nervous system and developing a sense of trust. You can also see that I use a couple of verbal cues, and these have a hypnotherapeutic sort of feel to them. So I'm inviting her to relax into the table. I'm also making a suggestion that she forgets the conversation and brings her awareness into the body, because ideally on the table, that's what we want. We want to help her drop into her felt sense. And often when we have had a lot of verbal discussion and talk therapy, it can be a little hard. So I'm going to gently invite her to do that. And I'm also going to then let her know that I'm going to be quiet and connecting with my hands, because again, it can be quite a jarring shift from talking and conversing to just then experiencing silence. So I'm helping orient her to the situation and to the experience, which helps her glide in with a lot more ease and safety. And you can see as I approach the crown of her head, I do it very, very gently, so there's not a sense of invasion, and it feels very smooth and gentle. And I often opt for this hold at the crown of the head as a first hold, because it's very, very containing. And so it's giving her system a chance to know, hey, I'm safe here, and I'm safe with this person touching me and containing my experience for whatever's going to come.